Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome to another fanfiction. Today we're going to cover an interesting storyline. Now, if Vader had got the plans, it would have changed a lot of things, and it always made me wonder, maybe he purposely let them get away. Maybe he wanted the Death Star to explode because of his infatuation with the Force, triumphing over technological weapons. Anyways, regardless of the reason, apart from plot armor for the story, what if Vader had gotten the plans? What if he force-choked every single rebel in the room, lifted them in the air, then walked over to the one with the plans and retrieved it? As Vader held it in his hands like a trophy, the Tantive 4 blasted off into hyperspace, where Leia would rush to seek counsel from Obi-Wan Kenobi as she traveled back to Alderaan. Speaking with her father, Bail, who would know where to find Obi-Wan Kenobi, on Tatooine, that is, Bail would go and travel there, and find Kenobi after much search, informing him of what has happened, how Vader got the plans, and that the Emperor would surely have them by now. Kenobi knew the time was now to find Luke and to unite him with his long-lost sister, Leia, to make them Jedi Knights. The hope in the galaxy wasn't to destroy the Death Star. Obi-Wan knew the Empire would seal any vulnerability to it after the plans were taken. No. Now the only hope left was Luke and Leia to confront the Emperor and Vader. This would change the entire events of the galaxy. Vader would have the plans, and with it, he would know the vulnerability of the Death Star. Urso designed the Death Star with a flaw. He knew the destructive power this would grant the Emperor, and therefore, he created a chip in the armor, the reactor, that if fired upon would explode the entire star. The only way the rebels knew about this was because of the leaked plans thanks to Rogue One. This would never happen. The chip in the armor would never be revealed. Vader and the Emperor would read the plans for themselves and realize what Galen Erso had done. They would patch it up and be unstoppable. Vader would travel to the Emperor with the plans directly. As he would probably be ordered by Tarkin to deliver them to him, he would do no such thing, and probably just fly to Coruscant where the Emperor turned the Jedi Temple into his headquarters and hand them over. We could get Vader walking through the Jedi Temple, now turned citadel of Palpatine's empire. The Dark Lord would trudge through the very halls we saw Anakin and the Jedi Masters walk through many years ago. Handing the plans over to the Emperor directly, Vader would kneel and bow his head to his master. "You have done well, my apprentice. The threat to our empire has been contained, and it is all due to your training." Contacting Tarkin, Palpatine would order him down to the planet to retrieve them and study them, to make sure the possible threat to the Death Star is sealed and fixed. The events would pretty much be the same, all the way up to the Battle of Yavin. Luke, Leia, and Han would still get together, as Luke and Ben's meeting would be similar, somewhat, and they'd have to get off the planet as they actually head for Alderaan, which isn't blowing up this time. If Vader and the Emperor could be overthrown, then balance could be restored as the Death Star couldn't be destroyed. Now, I believe there wouldn't be as big of a battle over Yavin, however, there still would be one. The rebels had no intel on how to destroy the Death Star, and with the plans now out of their hands and in the Empire's, they knew all hope was lost. There would be a few heroes who would vow that something could be done, and before you know it, many pilots would fly around the Death Star to see if they could find any sort of vulnerability. During the battle, the Empire would destroy every last rebel above Yavin. Vader was hunting Luke, but in this scenario, Luke and Leia are too valuable to be in danger like that flying around. They were essential to destroying the Empire for good. They were the only hope, the last hope. Now in the comics, Vader ended up landing on some nearby planet, spiraling out of control, spinning, if you will, and fighting some space dogs only to get out of there once reaching the Imperial base. Now, of course, that wouldn't happen here. Vader would just destroy them all and then land back in the Death Star. The story would be somewhat one-sided, all about Vader and the Emperor being literally too overpowered, as the flaw in the Death Star was literally their main vulnerability. They would focus their abilities on crushing the rebellion, and whether the rebels infiltrated Imperial bases here and there or not, it really wouldn't make a difference. With the Death Star fully operational, there was no chance for anyone to come near, unless the rebellion built their own Death Star super laser. This would cost them more money than they had, so they would have to seek the support of worlds who were under Imperial command by force. This would all have to be done in secret, of course, and even if they were never caught on that front, it would be extremely difficult to hide something of that sort in this era with the Empire so large and scouting the galaxy well into the unknown regions. Someone would eventually notice the rebels building their own super laser, and that's even if they could manage to get through all the hurdles of governments pooling their money together to pay for it. The first whiff of the Rebel Star, we'll call it, and the Death Star would jump to hyperspace and blast it to pieces, and all those involved in the treason. Vader would continue to hunt down the Jedi and execute Order 66 like we see him continue to do in the comics. The only hope would be Luke and Leia. Luke would have to train with Yoda, non-stop until he was a Jedi Knight, to the point where he would have to kill Vader and the Emperor. To which I'd say, hey, the ending will be the same because Anakin was always within Vader, and Luke just isn't a guy that would turn to the dark side. It just took that moment of Luke dying in front of his father for Anakin to come out of Vader. Luke and Leia would stay put on Dagobah and train until they reached the rank of Jedi Knight. At this point, when their minds were ready for it, Yoda and Obi-Wan would reveal who Vader truly was, because they couldn't afford to leave any sort of detail out. This was the last hope. Vader was their father, Anakin Skywalker. The shock would hit Luke the same way as it had. He just would have some time to internalize it and come to terms with it, like he did in between Empire and Jedi. Exactly the same way. Han wouldn't play as large of a role until the very end, and the saga wouldn't be 3 movies anymore, it'd be much more condensed, so maybe 2. Unless, we get tons of focus on Vader's adventure, which would be really cool. Him killing remaining Jedi in the galaxy, forcing the iron grip of the Empire over others, and searching for ways to bring Padme back via unknown regions or portals, Lord Momin, ancient beings, this and that. Obi-Wan and Yoda would train Luke and Leia until they were ready to face the Empire. Yoda would die and pass off into the netherworld of the Force. Obi-Wan knew it was time to face Vader. He knew he would die, as Vader was stronger physically than he was now, and his old body just couldn't move the way that it used to against such a powerful machine. This is something that was also explained in the novel, For A New Hope, that he was very surprised at how powerful Vader's cybernetics were. Obi-Wan, Luke, and Leia would call Han to Dagobah. They would all meet at the remaining rebellion base, whatever was left of them. Luke and Leia would meet the many faces of the rebellion, and everyone would look up to them with last hopes, as they truly were. Leia was an absolute machine, and Luke was no joke of a Jedi Knight. The time was now. The entire Rebel fleet would fly to the Death Star, causing a massive distraction as Obi-Wan, Luke, and Leia flew in with Han and Chewie in the Millennium Falcon, landing inside like they did in A New Hope just a few years later. Vader would sense the presence of Obi-Wan Kenobi. Moving to get him, the Emperor would stop him, having foreseen all of this and be ready for them. He would command Vader to stay put and let Kenobi bring the children of Skywalker to his throne, which Vader did not know. Only Palpatine did because, he knows everything, always ahead of everyone. Now, Vader knew that he had a son. He did not know that he had a daughter at this point. As Obi-Wan walks into the room with Luke and Leia, we hear Palpatine speak. "You won't be needing him any longer," says Palpatine as he zaps Kenobi into the ground. Vader steps angrily over Obi-Wan's body. He force pushes Luke and Leia back to push his saber through Kenobi, only to realize Kenobi's body was gone. All that remained were his robes. Luke and Leia scream and the Emperor laughs, his eyes glowing in the darkness of his hood. "Good, my young apprentices. Use your anger. Strike down Vader for what he has done to your beloved Ben, and take his place at my side." Yoda warned them of this, that the Emperor would do anything he could to make them feel anger and pain and loss, and that more often than not, it wouldn't be physical torment. Luke and Leia would approach the Emperor with their lightsabers drawn, raising them to strike as Palpatine chuckled and closed his eyes. "Remember your training. Don't give in to the hatred," said Ben's voice from the netherworld.
"The Force flow through you, it will."
Yoda spoke through the other realm as well. Luke and Leia ducked as they felt Vader swing over their heads, regaining their ground. They start to fight their father with everything they've learned. They stand no match for Vader. The events would take a completely different turn, and I could just write, that they'll fight, but I can't really show that unless it's animated, which I'd love to animate this fanfiction someday. So the three of them fight this crazy duel, intense, passionate, and full of fury from Vader's side. But eventually, it would end up the same way that it did in Return of the Jedi. The only difference is that Luke wouldn't actually be the one to take Vader's hand off this time, it would be Leia. After Vader tried to slice through Leia, Luke jumped in front, lost his footing, and Vader force choked him, throwing him into the corner. Leia's rage was furious. The Skywalker blood truly ran through her veins, and she charged Vader, caught him off guard, and swung desperately with power and might to destroy him. As Vader is blocking the blows, Palpatine says, "Good, kill your father." Vader is extremely shocked by this. He didn't realize that Leia was his daughter as well. He knew of Luke, but he did not know that he also had a little girl. Caught off guard with the onslaught from Leia, Vader was defeated. He could not bring himself to kill his daughter. As Leia went to swing at Vader's head, Luke stopped her from the back. "Don't. Remember our training. Don't give in to the dark side. It's what the Emperor wants." As the Emperor walked up and told her to do it, she refrained and threw her lightsaber away, as Luke stood up and stood next to her, throwing his away as well. "We won't turn, Your Highness. We are Jedi, like our father before us." "So be it, Jedi." The Emperor shocks both Luke and Leia to the ground as they are incapacitated, dying and burning before their father, who is now standing next to the Emperor. Anakin knows what must be done. Enough is enough. Throwing the Emperor over the railing, he has finally brought balance to the Force, dying in the arms of his daughter and son. Let me know if you enjoyed this fanfiction. I tried to switch it up a little bit, but in the end, Anakin always wins. It's just the way it is, it's the way the prophecy must be foretold. Even in this fanfiction, the only thing that we could change would be to have Luke die or Leia die, but in the end, Anakin would always win if the events are pretty much the same. So whether the Empire got the Death Star plans or not, the main thing that would change in this scenario is just how Luke and Leia would be trained, the fact that Leia would become a full-fledged Jedi Knight, because Obi-Wan and Yoda realize that really she and Luke are the last hope that they have, so they need to use all of their opportunities to train them the best that they can. They can't waste time hiding them anymore and listening to Uncle Owen and all this crap. They gotta really train them and make sure that they go up against the Emperor and Vader and win. And of course, Yoda teaches them about Force lightning and how to deflect it, but in this case, there's only so much you can do when you throw your lightsaber away. Now that I think of it, he could have taught them Tutaminis, which is when you control Force lightning with your hands like Yoda did, but that's a really difficult ability and something I would say that's harder to learn in just 2 years for Jedi Knight newbies. Anyways, let me know what you think of the fanfiction. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. I'd love to turn this into an animation someday. Let me know if you want that, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Until then, remember, the Force will be with you, always.